To further his main purpose, Genesis chapter 4 verses 17 through 24 characterizes the line of Cain in ways that drew indisputable associations with Egypt. These connections appear in at least 6 ways. First, Moses focused on Cain as a city builder. As he wrote in Genesis chapter 4 verse 17, Cain was then building a city. Needless to say, the Israelites knew all too well that the Egyptians were great city builders. Building cities for the Egyptians had been part of what the Israelites did as they were slaves in Egypt. For this reason, these words about Cain would have created strong associations with the Egyptians. Second, we should also take note of the name of Cain's city. Again, in Genesis chapter 4 verse 17, we read these words, Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. For Israelites in the days of Moses, this fact reminded them of an Egyptian practice. As Moses reported in Exodus chapter 1 verse 11, the Egyptians put slave masters over the Israelites to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pithom and Ramses as store cities for Pharaoh. The city Ramses was named in honor of the Pharaoh Ramses. Just like Cain, the Egyptians also named cities after themselves for their own glory and honor. In this way, Cain's genealogy established another connection between Cain and the Egyptians. A third association between Cain's line and Egypt appears in the pride which Cain's descendant Lamech took in his act of murder. In chapter 4 verse 23, we read that Lamech actually sang a song of praise to himself before his wives. Adah and Zillah, listen to me. Wives of Lamech, hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me. Lamech's boasting of his atrocities should have associated Lamech with the Egyptians in the minds of the ancient Israelites. The Israelites would have been quite aware that many ancient Egyptian inscriptions praised the pharaohs and their armies for their murderous exploits. A fourth association appears in Moses' attention to the death of children. Listen again to what Lamech said. In chapter 4, verse 23, we read, I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. The Hebrew term translated young man here is yeled, which is often translated simply boy. One of Lamech's victims was in all likelihood little more than a child. As we all know, in the first chapter of the book of Exodus, Pharaoh ordered the death of Israelite boys. Like Cain's Lamech, the Egyptians struck out against the defenseless of Israel, against their male children. A fifth association between Cain's family and the Egyptians appears in Lamech's claim to increased protection. In Genesis chapter 4 verse 24, Lamech claimed to enjoy even more protection than Cain. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Just as Lamech thought that God protected him, the pharaohs of Egypt were confident of protection from their gods. As a matter of fact, it had certainly appeared for many years that the Egyptians enjoyed more and more protection from harm. In the sixth place, we should note the cultural sophistication of Cain's line. Listen to the ways these 3 Cainite brothers, Jabal, Jubal, and Tubal-Cain, are described in Genesis chapter 4 verses 20 through 22. Jabal was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. Jubal was the father of all who play the harp and flute. Tubal-Cain forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. With these words, Moses characterized Cain's family as very sophisticated. Jabal was no mere shepherd. He invented animal husbandry. Jubal invented music, and Tubal-Cain invented sophisticated metallurgy. It would have been very difficult for Israelites in Moses' day to have missed this connection. Compared to the simple nomadic lifestyles of Israel's patriarchs, the culture of Egypt was highly sophisticated. Moses described the sinful line of Cain in this way to confirm the association he wanted his readers to make between Cain's lineage and the Egyptians. So we see that in at least 6 ways, Moses drew connections between the Canaanite genealogy and the Egyptians. His descriptions of city building, naming cities, pride and murder, violence against children, divine protection, and cultural sophistication in Cain's family were designed to create these connections.